When the sun began to rise over the tall mountains, the research outpost hidden in a quiet corner of the Himalayas looked like any normal morning. The workers were going about their usual tasks, checking equipment, preparing breakfast, and talking about how cold the night had been. No one had any idea that their lives were about to change forever. It started as a strange sound, something distant at first, like thunder rumbling far away, even though the sky was clear. A few people stepped outside and looked around, confused. The sound grew louder, sharper, and the ground began to tremble slightly under their feet. Someone pointed toward the horizon, and at first they thought it was a falling star or maybe a meteor. But as it came closer, it became clear that it was something far bigger and far more frightening. A bright streak cut through the sky, glowing with colors they had never seen. People ran out of the buildings now, shielding their eyes from the light. The air vibrated as the object raced downward, heading straight for the valley near the outpost. Then came the impact. It hit the ground with a force that shook the entire mountainside. Loose stones rolled down the slopes, birds flew out of the trees in panic, and a shockwave pushed a cloud of dust high into the air. Alarms started ringing inside the outpost as everyone scrambled to understand what had just happened. Some thought it was a plane crash. Others feared it was some kind of attack. But when the dust began to settle, what they saw made their hearts pound even harder. Lying in the center of a deep crater was a creature unlike anything found on Earth. It was huge, longer than a bus, with wings folded awkwardly under its body. Its scales shimmered in the sunlight, glowing faintly with blue and silver patterns, as if tiny lights were running across its skin. Steam curled from its nostrils each time it struggled to breathe. It wasn't dead, but it was clearly in terrible condition. Even without touching it, anyone could see that this creature was suffering. People froze in fear. Some backed away without even realizing it. Others stood rooted to the spot, eyes wide, unable to believe what they were witnessing. It looked like something out of a movie, yet it was right there, real as the mountains surrounding them. Just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get any stranger, something moved in the smoke at the edge of the crater. A silhouette appeared, tall, slim, and walking with difficulty. The shape slowly became clearer as it stepped forward. It wasn't human, but its form was close enough to make the people gasp. An alien being emerged, her suit torn and covered in ash. She looked exhausted, as if she had been through a great struggle. Her skin had a soft glow, and her eyes shone with an intelligence that was impossible to ignore. Even though she was clearly not from Earth, she carried herself with grace. But her steps showed pain and worry. She stopped only a few meters from the frightened humans and raised her hands in a gesture that looked like a plea, not a threat. Her voice trembled slightly as she tried to speak in broken English, each word slow and careful. "Please, help him." People exchanged nervous glances. Some whispered that it might be a trap. Others said they should call the military. A few wanted to run back inside and lock the doors. No one dared to take a step forward. The alien woman slowly turned to look at the giant creature lying in the crater. Her face softened in a way that any human could understand. It was the look of someone watching a loved one suffer. She pointed toward the creature and tried again. "He is my guardian, my protector. He is hurt. He will die." Her voice cracked, and she quickly looked down as if trying to hold herself together. The fear she had for the creature was stronger than the fear she had for the humans around her. But the humans still didn't move. Instead, they backed away a little more. Some raised their hands defensively. A few called out warnings not to come any closer. The alien's shoulders dropped. She could read their fear clearly. She knew they were not going to help. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. The giant creature lying in the crater let out a low, painful sound that echoed through the valley. The alien woman immediately rushed to its side, ignoring the dust and sharp rocks. She placed her hands gently on its head, whispering something in a language none of the humans understood. The creature's glowing patterns dimmed as it exhaled weakly dot from the outpost building. Someone shouted that help was on the way, but not the kind the alien wanted. They were calling officials, scientists, and possibly soldiers. Not doctors. Not rescuers. No one planned to save the creature. They only wanted to secure the area and keep everyone else safe. The alien woman could sense the refusal even before anyone told her directly. She turned toward the humans again, her voice shaking with worry. He needs treatment. Please, any doctor, any healer, anyone who can help. Her words were soft, almost begging. He protected my people. He saved my life. I cannot lose him. Instead of stepping forward, the humans stepped back. Some whispered things like, "Too dangerous. We can't touch that. And what if it attacks?" No one blamed them for being scared, but fear often closes the door on empathy. The alien's expression changed slowly from hope to heartbreak. It was clear she had expected more from the beings of this planet. Her breathing grew uneven as she realized she was truly alone here. The creature, still struggling to breathe, shifted slightly and groaned again. The sound broke something inside her. She placed both hands on its chest and lowered her head, fighting back tears. Her voice came out in a whisper, almost too soft to hear. "Please, stay with me." For a moment, the valley felt painfully quiet. The humans didn't dare speak. They watched her, this powerful, otherworldly queen, reduced to desperate helplessness. There was something deeply human in the way she stayed by the creature's side, refusing to give up even though she knew she had no help. A few people felt a growing guilt inside them. They didn't want to see anyone suffer, not even someone from another world. But fear still held them frozen. Behind the alien woman, smoke slowly cleared, revealing the damage around the crater. Burned trees, scorched rocks, and scattered pieces of glowing metal hinted at some terrible struggle that must have happened in the sky. The creature hadn't fallen from the sky. It had fought something. Something powerful. The alien woman finally stood up again, though her legs shook. She tried to stay strong, but the stress was overwhelming. She turned to face the humans one last time. Her voice was different, now not angry, not threatening. "Just tired. I traveled far. Too far. I trusted your world. I hoped you would help him." She paused, swallowing hard before finishing. "But you fear him more than you understand him." The humans had no answer. The creature let out another weak breath, and the alien quickly knelt beside it again, her hands trembling as she touched its head. She whispered more words of comfort, even though she knew it might not be enough. Her fear wasn't for herself. It was only for the creature who had protected her for years. Standing nearby, several humans felt a strange mix of emotions. They were still scared, but they couldn't deny the bond between the alien woman and the giant being. It didn't look like a monster anymore. It looked like a living creature fighting for its life. Just like any injured animal they might find in the wild. Still, no one stepped forward. The alien queen, exhausted and close to breaking down, kept her eyes on the creature's fading glow. The early morning sun warmed the valley, but she felt colder than she ever had before. This world, beautiful as it was, had turned its back on her when she needed help the most. Yet in her silence, there remained a tiny spark of hope inside her. She didn't know it yet, but someone, a human she had never met, was already on the way. Someone who would choose courage over fear. Someone who would soon change everything. For now, she simply stayed there, refusing to leave the side of the one being who had always protected her, even if it meant facing whatever came next all alone. The valley grew quieter as the alien woman stayed beside the creature, refusing to move. The humans around her whispered to each other, their voices low and shaky. Some debated whether to call for authorities again, while others simply froze, unsure what to do. Fear had made them hesitant, but curiosity and a strange sense of guilt pulled at them at the same time. No one had ever seen anything like this before, and yet they could feel the suffering in the valley, as if it reached out to them, demanding attention. From the outpost, one of the workers tried to speak to the alien, but words failed him. She turned her glowing eyes toward him and shook her head slowly, a mix of pleading and desperation in her expression. It was clear that nothing he said would help. The creature lying in the crater groaned weakly, its huge wings twitching slightly, as if it understood every word but had no strength left to respond. The alien woman's hands hovered over its chest, her touch gentle yet trembling with fear and hope. Hours passed like minutes. The humans remained at a safe distance, occasionally glancing at the scene and shaking their heads in disbelief. Some began to question themselves quietly. Was it right to do nothing? Could they risk helping? The alien woman's silent courage and the creature's suffering were slowly chipping away at the wall of fear surrounding them. Deep down, many of them realized that this was not a threat. They were witnesses to a living bond that transcended worlds. News of the valley's strange event had already started to spread. Drones from nearby cities hovered in the distance, capturing footage that looked unreal even on screens. Soon, military personnel and officials would arrive, but the alien woman had no time to wait. Every moment mattered. She could feel the life of her protector slipping away, and she refused to watch it fade without trying every possible option. She spoke softly to the creature, words flowing in a language humans couldn't understand. But the emotion in her voice was unmistakable love, fear, and devotion. As the sun climbed higher, the humans began to notice small details they had missed earlier. The creature wasn't just injured, it had been through a battle. Scars ran along its massive body, evidence of struggle and endurance. Its eyes, large and intelligent, flickered open occasionally, showing pain but also awareness. Every breath it took seemed like a victory, every weak movement a sign of resilience. The alien woman continued to encourage it, her hands never leaving its body. Even from a distance, the humans could feel her unwavering determination. Despite their fear, some of the humans began to feel empathy stirring within them. They started to see beyond the glowing scales and massive size of the creature. This was not a monster, it was a living being, in pain, deserving care. The alien woman's courage was contagious. Slowly, a few of them stepped a little closer, curious but cautious, watching her every movement. They wanted to help, but the fear of the unknown held them back. Their eyes met the woman's, and for a moment, there was understanding without words. They could see the desperation, the silent plea for someone to care. The alien woman, noticing the slight movement from the humans, nodded slightly, acknowledging their presence without judgment. She had expected rejection, yet she could still feel a small thread of hope connecting her to the humans. It was fragile, but it existed. She whispered again to the creature, her voice soothing, almost like a lullaby. The creature's eyes closed briefly, as if comforted by her presence, and the humans watching felt a strange warmth in the cold mountain air. Time passed slowly, and the air grew thinner as the altitude and tension pressed down on everyone. The humans were unsure how long they had been there, but it felt like the world had stopped. The alien woman remained beside the creature, refusing to leave even for a single second. Every movement of the creature caused her heart to ache. Every weak breath felt like a warning that time was running out. The humans began to realize that this was a test of courage and compassion, one that could define them in ways they hadn't imagined. Some tried to reason with themselves. They reminded each other that helping could be dangerous. What if the creature woke up and attacked? What if the alien carried diseases unknown to humans? Fear whispered warnings in their ears. But empathy, stronger than fear for some, whispered back, what if doing nothing is the real danger? What if the opportunity to save a life passed because of hesitation? The humans began to see the impossible choice they faced, and slowly, their perspective began to shift. The alien woman continued speaking softly, sometimes touching the creature, sometimes raising her hands toward the sky. Her energy was fading, but her determination did not. She sang softly at times, a melody that seemed to soothe both the creature and herself. The humans could not understand the words, but the emotion was undeniable. They watched, fascinated and conflicted, drawn into a story larger than themselves. It was a story of loyalty, courage, and survival, unfolding right before their eyes. A few children who had wandered to the outpost earlier were pulled back by adults, their eyes wide with awe. Even from a distance, it was impossible not to feel the magnitude of what was happening. The alien woman and her companion were not seeking help for themselves. They sought help for someone who had given everything, who had fought and suffered in silence, waiting for compassion to arrive. This realization struck deeply in the humans, who had been standing there, unsure of what to do. Hours slipped into the afternoon, and the alien woman's energy waned further. She sat beside the creature, her back straight despite exhaustion, refusing to bow to fatigue. Her hands never left its chest, her whispers never ceased. The humans, watching her determination, began to understand something vital. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action despite fear. They began to feel ashamed of their hesitation, their own fear of the unknown. Some tightened their fists quietly, as if preparing themselves for a choice they knew they could no longer avoid. Suddenly, a small drone that had been hovering nearby made a sharp noise. It startled both the alien woman and the creature. The humans flinched as the creature stirred weakly, its glowing scales flickering. The alien woman quickly reached out, soothing it again with her hands, her voice calm and steady despite her own fear. She looked up at the humans, her eyes reflecting both pain and hope. "It is almost gone," she said softly, almost to herself, almost pleading. "If no one helps, I will lose him." The humans realized that the moment to act was now. Waiting any longer could mean witnessing the death of a being that had fought tirelessly, defended a world they barely understood, and had a connection to someone who had traveled across galaxies to protect it. Something inside them shifted. Fear did not disappear, but empathy and courage were stronger. They could no longer stand aside and watch. For the first time, some began to step forward, small movements, testing the ground, testing their own resolve. The alien woman noticed the change and looked up with cautious hope. Her lips moved in a soft, grateful smile. She spoke again, words barely audible. "Please, do not fear. He is gentle. He only needs care." Her voice, once trembling, had a quiet strength now, a silent plea that encouraged the humans to step closer, to try, to dare. Even as she spoke, the creature let out a small, weak sound, almost like a sigh. It was not aggressive, not threatening. It was a signal that it could feel the presence of those approaching. The humans could see it, feel it, and slowly fear started to loosen its grip. Empathy and understanding began to take root. They realized this moment was not about danger, it was about life, about compassion, about a choice that defined them as humans. And so, in the quiet valley surrounded by mountains and the whispers of the wind, a fragile hope began to bloom. The alien woman, exhausted but unbroken, stayed beside the creature, her hands gentle, her heart unwavering. The humans, once frozen by fear, began to sense the possibility of action. For the first time that day, the impossible seemed just a little less impossible. The creature, glowing faintly and breathing with effort, was not yet lost. And somewhere, deep within the hearts of those who watched, courage began to rise that no one knew what would happen next. But one thing was certain. This day would change everyone who witnessed it, forever. The alien woman's eyes never left the creature as she gently pressed her hands to its glowing chest. She whispered softly in her own language, words filled with care and urgency. From a distance, the humans could see her trembling slightly, but her determination never wavered. It was clear to everyone watching that the creature was more than just a companion. It was family, protector, and friend all in one. She had risked everything to get here, and now she would not leave its side, no matter what. Hours passed, and the humans began to realize that the creature's condition was worsening. Its breathing became shallow, and the faint glow along its scales dimmed with every passing moment. Some of the onlookers felt a heavy weight in their chests, a mixture of fear, guilt, and helplessness. It was one thing to witness something extraordinary, but it was another to watch it suffer and do nothing. The alien woman noticed their hesitation, and though she did not scold them, a silent plea shone in her glowing eyes. "Please, someone must help," she seemed to say without words. Among the onlookers, there was one who felt a strange pull in his chest. A retired wildlife veterinarian, known for treating Earth's most dangerous animals, had been quietly observing from the edge of the crowd. Unlike the others, he didn't see a monster. He saw an injured being in desperate need of care. He had faced wild predators, venomous snakes, and rare animals no one else dared approach, and he had always believed that fear could never be allowed to stop compassion. Now, seeing the alien woman kneeling beside the creature, he felt a responsibility stir inside him, a voice telling him that this was a life he could not ignore. He stepped forward slowly, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. The humans near him stiffened, unsure of what he intended to do. The alien woman looked up at him, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and apprehension. He spoke softly, careful not to alarm the creature. "I can help," he said simply. "I've treated animals far more dangerous than this. I know how to keep him calm and safe." The alien woman's expression changed almost instantly. Relief softened her glowing features, and she nodded quickly, a silent thank you passing between them. She carefully stepped aside, making room for him to approach. The creature's eyes flickered open briefly, and it let out a weak sound that seemed to acknowledge his presence. Even from a distance, the humans could feel the tension lift slightly. The first real step toward saving the creature had been taken. The veterinarian moved closer, his movements slow and deliberate. Every step was calculated, every gesture calm. He examined the creature from a safe distance, studying the glowing patterns along its scales, the shallow rise and fall of its massive chest, and the injuries that covered its body. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, yet he treated it as he would any injured animal, with patience, observation, and respect. Fear was present, yes, but it was secondary to the overwhelming need to act that the alien woman assisted where she could, providing strange tools from her suit and murmuring instructions in her melodic, otherworldly language. The veterinarian listened carefully, combining her knowledge with his own expertise. Together, they began to assess the creature's condition and discuss a plan. It was a delicate balance. Human medicine could only do so much, and the creature's alien biology was unpredictable. Yet both of them refused to give up, bound by a shared desire to save a life. Nearby, the other humans watched in awe. Some still hesitated, but many felt a stirring of courage inside themselves. They had seen fear transformed into action, doubt replaced by determination. The alien woman's bond with the creature and the veterinarian's calm confidence created a ripple of hope that spread quietly through the valley. Even those who had done nothing before felt compelled to stay and witness. to learn from the courage unfolding before them. The veterinarian knelt beside the creature, speaking softly to it in tones that conveyed reassurance rather than command. The alien woman mirrored his movements, placing her hands over his where necessary to guide him. The creature's breathing remained labored, but it responded to their combined presence, allowing them to touch it without resistance. The humans observing could feel the tension and hope intertwining, each moment heavy with possibility. This was no longer a scene of fear, it was a scene of connection, of trust slowly forming between beings from entirely different worlds. As the hours dragged on, the veterinarian realized that the creature's injuries required immediate attention. He carefully examined the largest wound, a deep mark across its chest that pulsed with a faint, unnatural light. He assessed it the way he would any critical injury, keeping in mind the need to act quickly without causing further distress. The alien woman provided support, murmuring softly and adjusting the tools he needed. Their teamwork, despite the impossibility of the situation, was remarkable, a true demonstration of patience, empathy, and courage in the face of fear. Every now and then, the creature let out a low, pained sound. The alien woman pressed her forehead to its head, whispering words of encouragement. The veterinarian nodded, continuing his careful examination. He realized that this was more than a medical challenge. It was a test of trust. The creature had been through battles, and it had suffered, yet it allowed them to work. It allowed itself to be helped, because the alien woman's love and his calm presence created a space of safety. The humans watching were captivated, realizing that fear could be replaced by courage when someone chose to act with care. The alien woman glanced at the humans again, this time with a look that spoke volumes. She wanted them to understand that fear could not be stronger than compassion. Slowly, some of the onlookers stepped a little closer, drawn by the gravity of the moment. They did not touch the creature, but their presence was no longer purely out of curiosity. They were witnesses to bravery, empathy, and the beginning of a rescue that seemed almost impossible. They felt, in some quiet way, that they were part of something extraordinary. The sun began to descend, casting long shadows across the valley. Despite the passing hours, the alien woman and the veterinarian worked tirelessly. Every movement, every word, every gesture was calculated to ensure the creature's safety. The veterinarian realized that time was critical. The creature could not survive much longer without intervention. Yet in the way the alien woman moved, the way she spoke, and the way she remained by its side, he understood that hope had not faded. Together, they could make a difference. Occasionally, the creature twitched, testing its strength. The alien woman murmured encouragements, and the veterinarian adjusted his approach accordingly. It was delicate work, and every small success, every tiny response from the creature was celebrated quietly. They knew that even the smallest sign of life meant that hope remained. The humans watching began to understand that courage was not about doing something grand in a moment. It was about persistence, patience, and unwavering dedication when the outcome was uncertain. As evening approached, a quiet calm settled over the valley. The creature's breathing remained fragile, but it had responded to care. The alien woman pressed her hands gently to its scales, whispering softly, a faint smile appearing on her glowing face. The veterinarian stood back for a moment, assessing the progress they had made. The task was far from over, but they had crossed the most critical barrier, the first step toward saving the life of a being unlike any other. For the humans observing, the experience had changed them. Fear no longer dominated their thoughts. Empathy and courage had taken its place. They realized that action was possible, even in the face of the unknown. They had witnessed a bond that transcended worlds, a story of trust and hope that defied fear. The alien woman and the veterinarian had become symbols of what could be achieved when compassion triumphed over hesitation. The alien woman finally looked at the humans. Her glowing eyes filled with gratitude and a quiet plea. She did not ask for more. They could only stay and witness, but her expression conveyed a message they understood. Courage can be contagious, and kindness can inspire even the most fearful. The veterinarian nodded to her, signaling that they would continue until the creature was safe. Together, they formed a fragile but unbreakable team. Bound by the determination to do what was right, that night began to fall, casting the valley in shadows. The alien woman remained by the creature's side, whispering words of encouragement and hope. The veterinarian worked with care, ensuring that the creature's breathing remained steady. The humans watching understood that something remarkable was unfolding, a story of trust, courage, and connection that went beyond fear and danger. It was a story that would stay with them forever, a reminder that even in the most impossible situations, hope and compassion could prevail. The creature, though still weak, had begun to respond to their care. Its glowing scales pulsed faintly, a sign of life and resilience. The alien woman's smile grew slightly, a mixture of relief and renewed hope. The veterinarian nodded, confident that the first crucial step toward recovery had been taken. The humans watching, once paralyzed by fear, now felt a quiet determination of their own. They understood, in a way words could not capture, that witnessing courage and compassion was just as important as acting upon it. And so, in the quiet valley surrounded by mountains, under the glow of the setting sun, hope had begun to bloom. The alien woman, the creature. The valley was quiet now, except for the soft sounds of the creature's labored breathing and the gentle whispers of the alien woman. The sun had dipped lower behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Shadows stretched across the ground, but the alien woman and the veterinarian did not notice the fading light. Their focus remained entirely on the injured creature. Every breath it took was precious, every small movement a signal that it might yet survive. The veterinarian knelt beside the creature, examining its wounds carefully. He could see the deep gash across its chest, a wound that pulsed with faint energy, glowing in colors that seemed alive. It was unlike anything he had ever seen in his years of treating animals. Every instinct he had told him to be cautious, yet every part of him insisted that he act. Fear had to be put aside. This was a life that depended entirely on his courage and skill. He adjusted his gloves, carefully preparing the tools he had brought, knowing that any mistake could cost the creature its life. The alien woman stayed close, her hands hovering over the creature's glowing scales, offering guidance and support. She whispered instructions in her melodic, soft language, which the veterinarian did not fully understand, but he listened carefully, learning from the tone, the urgency, and the emotion in her voice. He could feel her desperation, her love for the creature, and it strengthened his own determination. Together, they formed an unusual but effective team, bridging two worlds with trust and shared purpose. The humans who had been watching cautiously now felt an unusual mix of awe and hope. They had seen fear transformed into action, hesitation replaced by courage. Even those who had been frozen with doubt realized that witnessing this rescue was as important as participating. The veterinarian's calm presence reassured them. He did not rush, he did not panic, but he acted decisively. Slowly, they began to understand that this was more than a rescue. It was a lesson in bravery, empathy, and the extraordinary results of combining skill with compassion. The veterinarian started with the most critical wound, a deep cut that ran across the creature's chest. It pulsed faintly, as though alive, and the soft glow along the scales flickered in response to his touch. He spoke gently to the creature, a habit he had developed over decades of treating frightened and injured animals. His voice was calm, steady, filled with reassurance rather than command. The alien woman mimicked his movements, her hands over his where needed, guiding him carefully. The creature's breathing remained fragile, But it allowed the intervention, trusting in the presence of those who sought to help. Time stretched in the valley. Hours passed unnoticed as the veterinarian worked tirelessly. He carefully removed shards of energy or debris embedded in the creature's chest, each one a potential threat to its life. Every small movement had to be calculated. The alien woman's soft whispers encouraged the creature, her hands never leaving its glowing scales. Occasionally, she leaned close, pressing her forehead to its head as if sharing strength through touch alone. The humans watching could sense the intensity of the moment. It was like witnessing a miracle slowly unfolding before their eyes. At one point, the creature's breathing faltered. The veterinarian froze, every nerve alert, ready to respond to the faintest sign of collapse. The alien woman's glowing eyes widened, and she pressed a hand to its chest, murmuring words that sounded like prayers. The humans around them held their breath, feeling the tension ripple through the valley. For a long, silent moment, nothing happened except the shallow rise and fall of the creature's chest. Then, slowly, imperceptibly, the creature's breathing steadied. Relief washed over the alien woman and the veterinarian alike. A quiet acknowledgement of small victories in a battle that had no guarantee of success. Night fell completely, and the valley was bathed in the cool, dim light of stars. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of earth and stone. Despite the late hour, neither the alien woman nor the veterinarian rested. Every movement was careful, deliberate, every gesture intended to preserve life. They worked together as if they had been doing this for years, despite the impossibility of the situation. Their teamwork became a rhythm, a silent understanding that transcended language. Species and worlds. At one point, the creature twitched its massive head, weakly acknowledging the hands that had saved it from further pain. The alien woman smiled softly, a mixture of relief and awe, and whispered words of gratitude that the veterinarian could not understand, but felt in every tone. The humans observing were struck by the quiet power of empathy and determination. They realized that courage did not always roar, sometimes whispered, persisted, and endured against impossible odds. This quiet courage was far more compelling than any display of force or fear they had ever witnessed. The veterinarian then began the most delicate part of the procedure, stabilizing the creature's chest to prevent further collapse. Using tools adapted from both his medical experience and the alien woman's strange technology, he worked with extreme precision. Every adjustment was small, almost imperceptible, yet vital. The alien woman guided him, her hands resting over his, her voice a steady reassurance. The creature, despite its weakened state, remained calm, responding to their combined care with faint but noticeable signals of life. Each small movement filled the alien woman with hope and determination. Hours passed like minutes. The humans who had watched hesitantly from the edge of the valley could not tear their eyes away. They were witnessing something extraordinary, not just the survival of a creature, but the demonstration of trust, collaboration, and courage across worlds. Fear had been replaced by action, and the impossible was slowly becoming possible. The veterinarian and the alien woman had shown them that compassion could transcend danger, fear, and doubt. Then, just when exhaustion threatened to overtake both the alien woman and the veterinarian, the creature let out a sound below, almost imperceptible roar that signaled life. Its glowing scales pulsed faintly, brighter than they had been for hours, and the alien woman's eyes filled with tears of relief. She pressed her forehead to the creature's head again, whispering words of gratitude and love. The veterinarian allowed himself a quiet sigh, knowing that they had reached a critical turning point. The creature was still fragile, but it had survived the most dangerous moments. Hope had taken root in the valley. The humans watching could feel the shift in the atmosphere. The tension that had held them tight like a chain began to dissolve, replaced by awe and admiration. They had seen fear confronted, courage in action, and life preserved through determination and care. The alien woman's quiet bravery and the Gomvi veterinarian's calm expertise had created a powerful lesson that transcended words. Even those who had initially feared stepping closer now felt an unspoken gratitude for the opportunity to witness such a profound act of compassion. Throughout the night, the alien woman stayed by the creature, her hands never leaving its glowing chest, her whispers never ceasing. The veterinarian remained beside her, monitoring every sign, adjusting, caring, and acting with patience that seemed almost impossible to sustain. Slowly, the creature began to respond more actively. Its breathing grew steadier, its movements more deliberate, and the faint glow across its scales brightened. The bond between the alien woman and her protector had been preserved, strengthened by the courage and skill of the human who chose to act. When everyone else had hesitated, Dot, by the time dawn began to creep over the mountains. Casting soft light across the valley, the creature had stabilized. It rose slightly on its massive forelegs, blinking and testing its strength. The alien woman smiled, relief washing over her in a way that made her glow faintly under the first rays of sunlight. The veterinarian stepped back for a moment, wiping sweat from his brow, knowing that their combined efforts had achieved what had seemed impossible only hours before. The humans observing the scene felt a quiet sense of inspiration. They had witnessed courage and compassion in its purest form. The alien woman knelt beside the creature, pressing her forehead to its head, whispering words of gratitude and relief. The veterinarian gently nodded, knowing that the critical stage had passed. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the creature was safe. It was still exhausted, still healing, but alive. The humans around the valley realized that they had witnessed a miracle, not in the supernatural sense, but in the quiet, persistent power of empathy, skill, and courage. The impossible had been achieved because someone chose action over fear. The alien woman looked at the veterinarian, her glowing eyes reflecting deep gratitude. She did not need to speak. Her expression said it all. In that silent exchange, there was understanding, trust, and respect that went beyond words. The humans watching felt a mixture of awe and humility. They had been witnesses to an extraordinary story of survival and courage. And the lesson lingered in the cool morning air. When fear is replaced by empathy and action, even the most impossible challenges can be overcome. The creature moved slightly, testing its wings, its head lifting to survey its surroundings. It did not roar. It did not lash out. It simply existed, alive, breathing, and aware. The alien woman's smile widened as she whispered words of reassurance and love, her hands resting gently on its massive chest. The veterinarian watched with satisfaction. The valley was quiet, bathed in the soft golden light of morning. The creature, now breathing steadily, lifted its massive head and slowly flexed its wings. Its glowing scales pulsed faintly, a sign of life returning to every corner of its body. The alien woman knelt beside it, pressing her forehead to its head in a gesture of love and relief. Her soft whispers filled the cool mountain air, words of gratitude, reassurance, and joy that were understood without being spoken. The humans who had stayed nearby watched in awe, feeling the weight of what had just happened. They had witnessed something extraordinary, life saved by courage, empathy, and patience. For the first time since the creature had crashed, the alien woman allowed herself to look around and take a breath that wasn't laced with fear. Her eyes met the humans who had observed her struggle, and she offered a quiet, warm smile. She did not scold them for hesitating. Instead, she acknowledged them with understanding. Some of the humans stepped closer, their curiosity and awe mingling with the relief that life had been preserved. They had seen fear confronted and compassion in action, and it had changed something deep within them. They felt a silent connection to the alien woman. Even across the unimaginable distance between their worlds, the veterinarian, still kneeling near the creature, adjusted some of the makeshift stabilizing devices he had applied overnight. Every movement was gentle and deliberate, respecting both the strength and fragility of the being in front of him. The alien woman guided him with soft words and careful gestures, and together they worked seamlessly, as if they had done this 100 times before. The creature moved slightly in response, testing its body and the trust it had placed in these new caretakers. Each small motion brought a subtle surge of relief to the alien woman, who pressed her hands gently against its scales, feeling the life returning through her fingertips dot around them. The humans remained silent, captivated by the scene. No one spoke, fearing to disturb the fragile peace. Yet in that quiet, everyone felt the gravity of the moment. This was not just about saving a creature. It was about witnessing trust, resilience, and the power of empathy. They had been drawn into a story larger than themselves, one that transcended fear and the boundaries of worlds. The alien woman's dedication, combined with the veterinarian's calm courage, had created something that seemed almost miraculous. Life, once on the brink of fading away, now pulsed steadily in the valley dot as the morning deepened. The creature slowly pushed itself to a more upright position, shaking its massive wings with careful, measured movements. It looked toward the humans, not with aggression, but with awareness. Its glowing eyes flickered over the group, assessing them, understanding them in a way that was both unsettling and awe-inspiring. The alien woman whispered softly, guiding it gently to remain calm. The humans watched, realizing that the creature's trust had extended not just to its queen and the veterinarian, but to everyone present who had witnessed its struggle. Even passive observation, they understood, had played a role in this shared moment of compassion. The alien woman slowly stood beside the creature, her hands resting lightly on its massive frame. She looked at the humans again, her eyes reflecting gratitude, hope, and an unspoken message. Kindness matters. Courage matters. Life matters. She gestured toward the creature, and though she did not speak aloud, the humans understood that it was time for the next step. This was the moment when recovery could begin, not just for the body, but for the spirit. She and the veterinarian had given the creature a chance to live, and now it was ready to respond to the care it had been offered. The creature took a deep breath and lifted its head, its glowing scales flickering brighter than before. It bent its massive wings, stretching them carefully, testing their strength after the injuries. The alien woman's face glowed with relief, and she whispered words that the humans could only imagine, words of gratitude, words of connection, words of life. The veterinarian watched with quiet pride, knowing that their work had saved not just a being, but a bond between worlds. The humans around them felt a sense of awe that was difficult to put into words. They had witnessed courage, patience, and empathy triumph over fear, doubt, and uncertainty. A subtle change rippled through the valley. The air, once thick with tension and fear, now felt lighter. The humans, though still cautious, began to step closer, drawn by the shared relief and the quiet triumph of life preserved. They did not touch the creature. It was far too powerful for that, but their presence was no longer an intrusion. It was part of the moment, a silent acknowledgement of bravery and shared understanding. Each observer felt a quiet warmth in their hearts, a lesson in the strength of compassion, and the courage it takes to act when fear is present. Then, the creature made a small, deliberate movement, lifting itself onto all 4 legs. Its massive head swiveled slightly, and it let out a soft sound, a low rumble that was not threatening, but almost like a greeting. The alien woman leaned close, whispering and stroking its scales gently. The creature responded with subtle movements, a soft flick of its tail, a gentle shift of its wings. It was still recovering, still fragile, but it was alive, aware, and responsive. For the first time since it had fallen from the sky, it looked like itself again, a guardian, a protector, a being of immense strength and loyalty. The humans watching felt a wave of awe and inspiration. They had seen helplessness transformed into action. They had witnessed life preserved through courage, patience, and compassion. The alien woman's quiet strength, combined with the veterinarian's skill, had created a powerful story of hope and resilience. For the humans, it was no longer just a story. They felt that they had been part of something extraordinary, something that would stay with them forever. The lesson was clear. Even the smallest act of courage can have the greatest impact. As the sun climbed higher, the alien woman spoke softly to the veterinarian. Her words were gentle, filled with gratitude, though he could only catch fragments of their meaning. Still, the tone was enough to understand her thanks. She gestured toward the creature, guiding it carefully. Slowly, the being rose fully to its feet, testing its strength. Its wings spread wide, and for a brief moment, the humans could see the full majesty of its form. The glow along its scales pulsed brighter, a sign of renewed life and energy. The valley seemed to hold its breath, as if the mountains themselves were watching and acknowledging the miracle of survival. The alien woman climbed onto the creature's back, careful with every movement. The veterinarian stepped back, giving space, and the humans remained at a respectful distance, feeling the power of the moment. The creature shifted slightly under her weight, then lowered itself into a gentle stance, ready to move. It had regained enough strength to fly, and the alien woman guided it with calm precision. The humans watched in silence, their hearts racing, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary, a bond between life, courage, and trust that spanned worlds. Then, with a graceful leap, the creature lifted into the sky, wings unfurling fully. The alien woman held on, her posture steady, her glowing eyes reflecting both joy and relief. The humans watching could hardly believe what they were seeing. The massive creature, once on the brink of death, now soared into the air, powerful, alive, and free. Its glowing scales left trails of light behind, painting the sky with colors that had never been seen before. The valley erupted in quiet awe. No one spoke. No one moved. All eyes were fixed on the being that had defied death, carrying the alien woman safely on its back. As the creature ascended, the alien woman turned slightly, looking down at the humans below. She offered a small wave, a gesture of gratitude that transcended words. Her eyes conveyed everything: thanks, hope, and a promise that this moment would not be forgotten. The humans waved back quietly, some with tears in their eyes, feeling the weight of the experience and the lessons it carried. They had witnessed life saved, courage in action, and the extraordinary result of compassion and determination. High above the valley, the creature and the alien woman disappeared into the horizon. The golden light of morning reflected off the glowing scales, leaving a lasting impression on everyone who had witnessed the scene. For the humans below, the valley no longer felt ordinary. It had been the stage for a story of courage, empathy, and the extraordinary bond between beings from different worlds. They would remember this day forever, the moment when fear was set aside. Courage took its place, and life triumphed in the most unexpected way. And so, in the quiet valley now filled with light, the humans remained, reflecting on what had happened. They had watched helplessness transform into hope, fear replaced by courage, and despair turned into triumph. The alien woman and her protector had left, but the lesson remained: compassion and bravery, when combined with patience and understanding, could overcome even the most impossible challenges. The story of that morning, of life saved and trust honored, would stay with them always, a reminder that courage and empathy have the power to change the world, one life at a time.